Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
What is up, y'all? What is up? This is Jose. Welcome to the Get Geek podcast. How's it going, y'all? I am joined today by the crew. I'm joined by Wolfie and joined by Walt. Say hello, gentlemen.
What up?
What's up, y'all?
And as always, we got another fun podcast for y'all today. But first, quick plugs. As usual, as y'all know, the best way to support your favorite podcast crews is to like, rate, share, and subscribe basically just about everywhere that you can actually give some feedback on the podcast, but especially on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate any ratings, reviews, and hit us up if you have any feedback about the show or anything that you would like for us to talk about. We always welcome that kind of stuff. Please like, rate, share, and subscribe to all of our cool stuff. And yeah. Welcome. How y'all doing this morning, gentlemen? We're recording a little bit earlier today, so there might be some extra caffeine in the mix.
Doing all right. I'm mesmerized by your mic, Walt.
Oh, what was that?
The glowing mic?
Your microphone. It's mesmerizing me this morning with all its gradient fluidity of colors.
It is the HyperX Quadcast Pro. So...
Plug.
How do you like it? How do you like it compared to the Yeti?
I like it a lot. I mean, you know, just the way the form factor is pretty good, and you guys can attest to whether the microphone quality is good or not.
Yeah, it's got the boom. It's got good sound quality to it.
I was gonna say, like, it sounds really, really good, and you don't have like a pop filter or anything, in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Everything's
there.
there.
Raise it up. I want to see the bass.
So the bass is pretty cool, and so the gain is at the very bottom. So it's like a dial and stuff.
Dial, yeah.
And then right over here is where you have your different modes. It has 4 modes, just like the Yeti. And of course, it uses USB-C. That comes through here, and it has this nice little thing, and you can set this up on a boom mic also. A boom arm.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like it looks like it's already ready to go on a boom arm. How much did that run you?
That's a good question. I can't remember. Hold on a second. I'll find out for you.
I think it might be time to start looking for upgrades.
Yeah, definitely. It was hard to find, believe it or not, because I went to a bunch of Best Buys to try and see if I could find it, and it was sold out in a lot of places. I lucked out finding one in Brooklyn. This bad boy set me back. Drum roll, please.
Sorry, should have been more ready.
Yeah, I know.
I got to take a breath before and to continue that drum roll. Yeah, that mic looks like kind of like a lava lamp. So it's kind of like entertaining to record and just watch like his video feed.
RGB lights is the new lava lamp.
Yeah.
RGB lights is the new lava lamp.
Yeah.
My desk pad is lined with I guess, an LED light inside of it.
Really?
And it's just
That's
RGB all day, yeah.
That is dope. It's like getting like a good keyboard.
This bad boy sent me back $150.
That's not bad. That wasn't much more than
it's about the price of the Yeti.
Yeah,
exactly. And the mute button is right here,
right on top.
All I got to do is just press down.
Interesting.
So
very interesting.
It's a pretty good mic. It's a pretty good mic, and I've been using it lately on Frame Rate DLC for the gaming videos that we have over there. So
yes, indeed.
So it works out pretty good.
Shameless plug.
There you go.
Heck yeah, dude.
Go on to Frame Rate DLC on YouTube for all your gaming needs.
Yeah, if y'all want to watch some quality streamers, check out Frame Rate and see a bunch of Elden Ring and many other games being played.
Yeah,
I mean, with Street Fighter 6 coming out, hopefully I'll be able to jump on there and start streaming live on there too, so you guys can see me getting my butt whooped.
there you go. There you go.
I thought you were gonna
Hopefully in
brag.
high fashion.
I thought you were gonna
I don't know,
boast and be
man.
like, "Yo, I'm gonna
I
kick
don't
some
know,
butt."
man. Like I'm decent in Street Fighter, but you know there are people in the fighting game community that are magicians.
I mean,
But
yeah.
that new Street Fighter looks way different from the way it normally is, because like you
Right.
actually can move around and stuff. It has
a
like
little bit,
like
yeah.
it always had story, but the story was kind of contained. This one you have
Yeah.
freedom of movement in this like city or whatever, right?
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. That's
My
what's
player.
cool about the new Street Fighter is that it's going to introduce an actual open world element that is going to kind of allow the casual players that have always wanted to get into Street Fighter have something other than go online and just get your butt whooped all the time. You
Mhm.
know, so like I'm really interested in that. I'm not too. I mean, it's a little bit weird, right? Because it kind of makes the story about you know your created character versus the story of like the mainstays, you know, Ryu and
That's
Ken
true.
and Chun-Li and stuff. So these characters, it seems like, are now sort of just supporting characters now, which is cool to a certain extent. You know, I do love the Street Fighter lore when it's done well. So
You know what
we'll see how
the
this-
game the game feels like? It feels like a little bit like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, where
That's what
it's
some people have compared it to. Yeah, so
yeah,
far.
that's what it
Yeah.
feels like so far. I mean, we haven't played it obviously, and we've only seen limited clips, but you know, it just gives me that Xenoverse vibe, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess like with the open world and kind of inserting yourself into the Dragon Ball Z storyline, but Xenoverse like was basically like, hey, this is what would happen if you were in the storyline, and it would still be the same story, just a little different because you're
Yeah.
somehow in it, right? And I think
Yeah.
that didn't go well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think if you wanted to do the true Dragon Ball thing, you would have to jump onto Dragon Ball Kakarot,
Yeah.
because Kakarot
Mhm.
was more, you know, it was more beholden to the story. You know, Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2 was kind of like you in the Dragon Ball universe,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
Right.
kind of like how cool is the character you can create. That kind of like
Exactly.
that begs a question for me also, because if you're creating a character in Street Fighter, are you creating movesets and stuff like that also? Because that's going to be kind of weird and unbalanced.
Right. So I think that, like, you know, but the created character, I don't think you can play online like with
Okay.
your created character.
Okay.
This is just a character in the I think it's just in the open world. So I guess there's also that element too, right? Where in fighting games and in wrestling games, you can create a character, but then play against your friends with that created character, but it's not really fair. You know, if you like can, you know, do all these different attributes and, you know, whatever, it doesn't really balance the game. But this created character mode, it seems like, is just going to be in the open world section of the game.
That's good.
So it doesn't interfere with the I guess the fighting, the competitive fighting game element of it.
Because I feel like, yeah, like a lot of people will start like creating these broken like characters.
Dude, I remember
Yeah.
in I think it was No Mercy, like the N64,
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
like, you know, in like the old wrestling games,
Yeah.
I used to create like just max all attributes, including size. So like you'd have like this like character that was like 10 feet tall and like 4 feet, 5 feet wide or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I would just give him like, you know, white everything. So like white hair, a white beard, a white button down with white slacks and white shoes. And I called him God. And it was like, all right, of course it would be God if he has max attributes, the most powerful, like, especially he had like the rock bottom and the stunner. And when he stepped into the ring, he took up like more than half of the ring just standing there.
And it's also, if I remember correctly, No Mercy, like you couldn't lift up certain sizes of play. That was one of the ones.
Yeah,
that,
like it was like
Yeah.
it was like based on certain weight, you had to like mash the button in order to get him up.
So you're like actually physically tiring your opponent out when you play them,
Yeah.
because they're just mashing buttons like a maniac.
Yeah.
No, you would love WWE 23, I think it is, or 22.
The most recent,
because because you can download God. But now God is a little bit different because he has a glow in the game.
Oh gosh. Oh god.
Really?
Yes, he does.
RGB.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And he comes out to some ridiculous. I love the wrestling games just for that.
He's wearing string lighting.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Speaking of wrestling, it's real funny. DC, Daniel Cormier of UFC is going to do a guest referee spot.
No, seriously?
Yeah, he's doing a guest referee spot. I don't watch wrestling anymore, so I don't even know who the wrestlers or characters
I don't know either.
are.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because usually these athletes that cross over as special guest referees end up becoming like wrestlers in their own right. You know, like Ken Shamrock famously, like he started off as like guest referee and then he became like basically a full-time WWE wrestler.
Yeah.
They've been like kind of each other's minor leagues back and forth a little bit for years, right? Because you got Brock Lesnar.
Cormier is getting up there, isn't he?
Well, Cormier is, he's retired and everything. He's just a sports analyst now. But
this is a good way for him to transition and make some money.
I mean, he is a wrestler, so he's like a real life wrestler. So,
hey, we've seen wrestlers in WWE. We had Lesnar, we had Kurt Angle and stuff like that. So he slide right in.
Rousey, Ronda Rousey, right? She was like in UFC first, then she got her butt kicked. She's in UFC still, or in WWE?
Yeah. She's one of the stable female stars of WWE. She's back. She went away because she started her family and everything. And like I guess now she's back in the WWE. So
okay. I thought you had said she was in UFC. I was like, since when? Like I thought she retired from that forever ago. Like after she lost, it was basically that was it. She was like, I'm going to go wrestling instead and make money off of this. And like,
Holly Holm really shook her,
basically.
So.
I mean, every the hill is steep when you're at the top. So you fall hard.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anyway, what are you guys up to? What are you guys doing?
Let's see. Well, I've been watching something that I know y'all have seen before that you want to talk a little bit about. I've finished the 97 Berserk anime. I watched the 3 Golden Age arc films from 2012, and I started the awful 2016 anime. And it is very bad. The animation is awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I still want to see it.
Terrible decision.
It doesn't feel like Berserk, especially with some of the characters there. That little fairy and whatnot. I forgot. It's been a while since I've seen that. Puck. Yeah.
Puck. I mean, I picked up the first volume of the manga, and I have not read it yet. But I know that it's weird. I don't know if you guys have seen or read the manga before. It does not start with the Golden Age arc. It does not start with any of that stuff in the anime. It starts with Puck, basically. It starts with the aftermath of the Golden Age arc. And then I think later at the end of that first volume, it goes back and flashes back to, like you had said, Wolfie, Guts' childhood, Guts being the main character for those who don't know Berserk, and like the Golden Age arc. Because I was actually, you had mentioned that there would be more stuff about his childhood in the movies, or like maybe I misunderstood, but the movies don't really have much more. It's like it seems
no. It's not. Yeah, no, it's not that it has more. It's just that the movie started with young Guts before he met Griffith and gone through everything, right? Whereas the anime, it was a flashback. So, for example, spoiler alert for anybody that's listening. In the anime, it already starts with like Guts, missing eye and like messed up like arm and all like the weapons and stuff like that. So you already know something happened, so when you see the flashbacks and you go through the story, not only do you know that something's going to happen to Guts, you also know that he survives whatever's happening. When I saw it and when I got introduced to it and I saw the films, I didn't have any of that information, so I didn't I didn't know how the story was going to end. And, you know, there were points like, for example, in the third film, you know, there were points in that where I was like, you know, like, is he going to get out of this? Like, it doesn't seem like he's going to get out of this.
It's over for all of them, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, and it's funny because like Guts, you know, or rather Berserk is one of those things where like, all right, so like I'm seeing 3 movies. The second movie definitely like shows, something really crappy is about to happen. Third one shows the crappiness happening. But in my head, I'm like, all right, you know, it's 3 films, three acts, and I'm waiting in the third film. I'm waiting for like, all right, like hero, let's go save the day, like go Super Saiyan or something, like, and no, it just has a terrible ending, and I was just like traumatized because like I'm still waiting for like the happy ending.
You're waiting for that like shonen moment where they're like love and friendship like saves all.
I'm just waiting for like some sort of retribution, but like this is one of those things where like yeah, no, the good guy does not win.
Not at all. It seems like Guts just loses and loses and loses a lot, even though he's like this great.
I guess he needs a lot of guts to keep going through this.
It's funny because like me and Walt remember the introduction that we had to Berserk many years ago on PlayStation. No, it was on
Dreamcast.
Right, we had to clarify that on Dreamcast. The Berserk Guts Revenge video game that we played, and I remember characters like Nosferatu Zod, right? Like there's that demonic character that him and Griffith fight in the Golden Age arc. I remember characters like that from the game and fighting characters like that. But like it took like 20 years for me to finally watch the anime and to start reading the manga, which, as y'all know, I got that copy here. Rest in peace.
It's weird that way.
Yeah,
it's weird that way because
it's a beautiful book too.
Yeah, like,
it is.
I've been looking at some of the artwork in here.
I think it's huge also.
And it's fantastic. Yeah, this is like the deluxe edition. For those of y'all that want to pick it up, you can get this on Amazon for $35 right now, this first volume. They're usually about $45, $50. Yes, sir. Oh, you have your sealed? Yeah, smart man.
Yeah, I've had it for a while and I just haven't opened it.
Smart man. Smart man. Yeah,
but I guess I'm ready to now. I put it right on like my my little reading stand, and I'm just looking at it right now because I haven't had time to sit down and read anything. But
yeah, my reading stand
like stack of books.
Just has books on it too that I haven't even touched. Like this, a book that a friend of mine wrote actually called Nerd. My friend Maya Phillips, who's a writer, wrote a book about growing up nerdy, and I've started that book, and also like an IT project management book, and none of them have really been touched. This I just got, so I'm gonna jump in on this as quickly as possible. But like, I mean, just to get into it a little bit, like you like start to wonder if something like this is overhyped since, you know, it's been around for however long, and I just haven't seen it. And like, yeah, Berserk is freaking incredible from what I've seen so far, even from the limited stuff I've seen in the '97 anime. And it's
which one do you prefer?
Well, like
that's like a big topic of conversation amongst fans. It's like, okay, do you follow '97 or do you follow the Golden Arc movies?
I follow both, and I'll tell you why. And y'all can tell me what your opinion is on this, because when it comes to the first movie versus how that arc is represented in the anime, I think the anime does that better. And it does that because, in my opinion, because like the anime just has more time to like flesh out certain characters. The most important character that gets fleshed out more in the anime, in my opinion, is Griffith. Because in the first movie, like the moments that you meet Griffith are a little more sparing. And like, how do I put this? Griffith is a scenery chewer, right? Like if he were an actor, he would chew the scenery. Like, in the anime, there's just moments where he just like has a look for like a few lingering seconds, something that gives you more insight into the character, or like he'll have a couple more lines of dialogue that didn't make it to the movie. And so the way that he's characterized in the anime in the first movie, I think is far better. By the time you get to the third movie, his characterization in the movie is better than the anime, because I think that the scenes where, you know, you have this dark thing that happens, you know, again, spoiler alert, for those that have not read or for those who have read Berserk, I should say, y'all know it when he basically becomes Femto, I think is the name of the demon, right? He like uses the Behelit to like unleash his power. He sacrifices the entire band of the Hawk, all of his allies that he's been leading as the commander for a long time. And the way that he makes that leap in that decision, and his feelings for Guts and Casca and the other members of the Band of the Hawk are all a little bit better in the third movie. And this, like, for me, when it comes to the second part of that, the second movie is freaking incredible. So like, I would say for the first part, the storyline that's covered in the first movie, which is when Griffith and Guts meet and become allies, is better in the anime. When they're allies, when Guts is in the Band of the Hawk, all those years that he spends with them and becomes closer to Griffith and Casca, is better in the movie, that second movie, I think. Also, that movie is incredibly directed. The action scenes in the second one, I think, are better than the third one. I mean, I think that's also because the third one is just, like you said, Wolfie.
Yeah, it's so heavily.
You think they're going to win, and you think he's going to do some cool stuff, and it's just like, nope, they're going to lose big, and like a lot of people are going to die. And then the third one, like, I would say the movie is better than the anime, but I think that it's a little closer than the other two arcs, because I think that the anime does it pretty darn well. The only thing that I would say is a bigger difference is that it's like, because the anime is a little dated, the way that they handle Casca in the anime is a little like cringe sometimes, to be honest. Like, I think that the way that they handle some of the things that happen to Casca is better in the movies, and she's less of a, like, there's more of a tendency, I think, in old anime to have like that damsel in distress actor, like, kind of like,
yeah, she's not as much of a victim.
Yeah, even
though she is
a victim, but like she's a stronger character in terms of how she's acted out in the movies. You know what I mean? She's definitely
very true.
Got to be saved a bunch of times for sure. It's part of the story. But like the way that her actor delivers those moments is a little bit stronger, quote unquote, in terms of the acting and in terms of the character's overall demeanor. So that's my like long answer. How do y'all feel about movies versus anime arcs? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well,
I struggle with it, to be honest, because the 97 anime, and the thing about 90s anime is that the animation still holds up for a lot of these properties, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because you get closer to present time and they're not as good, and you go back to some of this animation style from back in the 90s and they are just completely amazing, right? The level of detail on some of these properties is just fantastic. The 97 anime, just because of the fact that it's 25 episodes, obviously you're going to get a more fleshed out story on those things.
That's true.
A lot of people have said that the 97 anime, just because of the length, trends closer to the manga. Jose, you'll probably find out when you start reading that stuff and whatnot.
Well, I have like 600 pages or so before I get to that arc.
I know.
Well, it's still going on. I don't know if you realize that.
Berserk?
Yeah. They're still writing.
It's still ongoing.
No, it's finished. Somebody finished it.
Oh.
Yes.
They finish it?
Yes, 100%. I read it a couple of weeks ago. Somebody close to him finished it, because I was reading how people were reacting to the ending since Kentaro Miura, the mangaka, passed away.
Yeah.
Somebody finished it. We can look this up. I'm going to look this up to be sure, but I know I read an article where they said that the ending is actually very, very good, even though it's written by somebody who didn't, like, not the creator of the manga. I'm going to double check.
I know they were supposed to keep it going just because it was unfinished by the time, he had passed away.
It was literally, I think, well, yeah, exactly. Here, Berserk's final chapter. It was actually a year ago or so when they did it.
Really?
Yeah, because this article is from December 11th, 2021. I'm not going to read anything from it other than the title, which is, and the title and the little blurb underneath. Berserk's final chapter outdoes Game of Thrones' disappointing ending. And it says the Game of Thrones series finale leaves a sour
That's
taste in fans'
kind of a
mouth 2 years after it aired. Berserk's final chapter, though, is perfect. So they
yeah,
did
but
finish it. Yeah, no,
comparing it to Game of Thrones is kind of like a low bar here.
I
If
know.
we're
I just
being
found this
honest,
article, like I
you
said.
know,
I just
you
wanted
know.
to clarify that
But
it had been finished, and
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
the things I do like about the movies is obviously the the 3D animation is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
If you think about it, and some of the fight sequences are amazing, in that thing. Um, and there is that shock value when you get to that third movie, because if you look at the movies on a whole, the first and second one play very much like an epic fantasy type of thing, like a Game of Thrones, like a Lord of the Rings and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
once you get into that third movie, you're already in that psyche of you're watching a high fantasy series, and then the third movie hits you. So
That's weird.
and that's just sheer pure body horror, whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
whatnot. So
It's like
I
Lovecraftian, maybe, right?
yeah,
Lovecraftian
exactly.
horror.
So I appreciate the movies for giving that swerve in that third movie, because it's just so jolting and shocking to see the things that happen there. And I think it's more pronounced than it is in the anime. So
I think that the movie definitely does a good job in some cases of getting to the point, quote unquote, of what a
hmm
character's intentions are, and even removing characters that, like, so for instance, and y'all can tell me, I think, what you think about this. They removed the queen. Remember the queen that like betrays Griffith and like wants to poison him in order to prevent him from marrying Princess Charlotte.
vaguely,
She's
yeah.
not in the movie. She's not in the movie at all. The king is the one who ends up standing against Griffith in the movie, because if y'all remember, what is it? In the anime, the queen gets upset because she sees that somebody of low birth, Griffith, is trying to marry her royal daughter, Charlotte, and comes up with the plot. And then Griffith finds out about it, remember, and he like burns the freaking castle where the queen and like all of her consorts are, all the people who were in on it. In the movie, the the king finds out that Griffith was intimate with Charlotte and ends up just going against him. Like, how could you do this to me after I gave you like a title and all of
hmm
that? And they kind of don't do what they do in the anime, where like they paint the king as this great person. They take that antagonism from the queen and just transfer it to him. She's not even in the movie at all.
Well,
Things
I'm
like
I'm
that.
gonna say I'll say this about the movies, and this is something that you generally cannot say for most of these type of things. They do a really, really, really good job of adapting a 25 episode series and truncating it into three movies.
Yes.
And you know what? The thing about it is that you don't while the anime does flesh out a lot more things,
Hmm.
even watching the movies, you don't feel like it's like they took the best parts of it, and kind of just mashed it into the whole thing, and it came out really well. So,
Yeah, I definitely like it. And just to your point, also, like, what is it? The scene where after they rescue Griffith and Guts is charging up the stairs, killing all the soldiers, is freaking unreal. Like,
hmm
what is it? The other one where he fights Boscone, the general of the other army, while they're still in the Band of the Hawk. The guy like with the huge spear on the horse.
yeah.
Like, that whole fight is crazy when he cuts off that dude's head and the horse's head in one swipe. Like, that whole fight is amazing. All the action scenes in the second one are incredible. And the only other point I want to make is it's interesting that you talk about the animation, because like it's CGI, a lot of it, right? Some of it is
Right.
is clearly like
Yeah, hand drawn.
hand drawn,
hmm
maybe not hand drawn, but like they used like hand drawing to fix some of it, right? That's what they do with some of the CGI. They'll
hmm
put hand drawing over it to give it that texture. The movie, because they have money, is such a perfect example of how that can go right. And then watching the 2016 anime, it's
Oh
such
god.
garbage. The CGI is so
I think I
garbage,
think
you
I
know?
think what it is with the 2016 anime is that it's kind of the earlier days of 3D
It's money too,
cell
though,
tech.
because the movies were before the 2016 anime. They're in 2012, so it's money
Right,
and
but
all that.
right, but I think like with the films, it's still mainly animation over 3D over CGI, whereas the 2016 anime was done
Yeah.
was the decision was made for it to be full CGI. And if you guys look at the new Dragon Ball movie,
Mhm.
that movie uses the same tech, and the new Dragon Ball movie looks much better
Hmm.
than that animation,
Hmm.
but I still think that like it just doesn't work. I don't
Well,
like it. Like either go full 3D or keep it hand drawn over CGI, but don't
but you,
make the character animations all CGI and just every element of it CGI. I think it just doesn't work.
I think
It's all to save
one of
money and
the
time, right? Yeah.
one of the bigger problems with 2016 is that they used the CGI to make it look hand drawn, because I think that was
Yeah, that's
one
the other
that
thing
was
too.
the other
Yeah,
thing that really screwed it up, is that
yeah,
they were trying to kind of get the feel and look of the manga, but
yeah.
using CGI to do it, and I think that was a really bad mistake on their part
Hmm.
to try and do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It
for
doesn't look
sure.
good. It doesn't
Yeah,
look
it
good.
doesn't. Yeah,
I agree. I'm just gonna plug through it because I just want to get through it now that I started. But like,
I
Dude,
it was rough.
I bought the 2 seasons on iTunes. I still haven't gotten past episode 3. So,
Yeah, it was tough for me too.
I'm
I do want
on
to make
to
one quick point though,
yeah.
before we move on.
Hmm.
For me, just to kind of give my 2 cents on the movies versus the anime,
Hmm.
I do prefer all three movies over the anime,
Hmm.
mainly because like Walt said, I just think that like they did a really good job of condensing it and
Hmm.
taking the best parts of the film.
Hmm.
And with the first film, one of the issues that like my friend Paulie, has mentioned is that like you just don't get everything from Griffith that you do in the anime.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um
Yeah.
but for me, it's kind of from a storytelling perspective, I thought it was a good decision to leave a lot of stuff out, only because it also gives you that kind of mysteriousness and the less is more element. If you made the comparison to Sephiroth from Final Fantasy
Yeah.
VII, and one of the mistakes of Sephiroth is that you rarely saw him even in the storyline or even as a character in the game, and it just kind of like wanted you to know more about him. And so I thought that the film did a really good job of just showing me bits and pieces of Griffith in the first film and showing me some of you know the elegance of Griffith and like the way that he fights and the way that he speaks and the way that he acts. Um and but then like not giving me much more, which made me want to know more about Griffith, which then in turn shocked me even more when his true nature was apparent. You know.
I think that it struck a good balance, but there's one thing that I think is in the anime that I don't think they touch upon in the movies, and it might be for cultural reasons. In the anime, like, and I don't know if the manga is like this also, when you see the relationship between Guts and Griffith, you kind of don't understand Griffith's intentions very well in the anime because, like, to be perfectly honest, like he could have a crush on freaking Guts. In the anime, it almost hints at that. And what that ends up doing for me is that's an ambiguity that I like, but also you realize when you find later on in the story where he like hooks up with that royal, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
Hmm.
you see that it has
Mhm.
nothing to do with any affection. It's just literally that's his ambition. Like he'll do
Yeah.
anything for his ambition. So that small thing, I kind of like that addition, but I definitely understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Like
I
they're all
the
great
the
anyway.
thing, yeah. The dichotomy for me is in the first film the way that I feel about Griffith. With his like whole mystique and everything, and just wanting to know more, and just like it's almost like, yeah, I'm with the Band of the Hawk. Like that to me translates well to Guts, because Guts also is like doesn't know really anything about Griffith, and I can see how like Guts could be mesmerized also for that reason,
Hmm.
because Guts is also, we're experiencing everything through Guts. you know. So that's how it translated to me. You know, the way that I feel about like Griffith after the first film is the way that Guts must have felt like Griffith about Griffith as well, where it's like, I don't know this person, this, that, and the other, but like there's something about him that makes me want to follow him.
It's like, I want to be this dude's friend. Like, wait,
yeah, exactly.
In order to be his friend,
like,
I have to go against him. Done. Like, I'm leaving the band of the Hawk. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just there's something about the way that they told the story of Griffith that makes that, you know, to me it translated well to that.
I mean,
anyway,
Griffith is a fantastic character.
Yeah, he's one of the best villains ever written.
Yeah, I agree. Like his setup is amazing. So
yeah,
if y'all haven't checked out Berserk, you know, the anime, the manga, whatever, probably best to read the manga for most of y'all. But if anything, hit up that 1997 anime, watch the 3 movies, and do yourself a favor and just start reading the manga after that and try to skip the 2016 anime. I think there's one OVA that people said is really good, and I'll probably end up watching that. But other than that, avoid 2016 Berserk. Pretty much like the plague, and it's 2 seasons. Yeah. So yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, but you know what? Thankfully, the manga is finished, and I'm into it. I'm gonna get started with it.
I don't know. I'm reading. I think you might be a little. We gotta like do a little bit more confirmation because I'm reading online. It says that like his final chapter was perfect, but it's still ongoing, and everything it says is still ongoing.
I don't know. We'll look it up.
And we'll look it up and confirm. Yeah.
But at the very least, we do know that somebody else has continued it. That much
it's his childhood. It's a fellow writer, and his childhood friend took over the series.
Yeah. So like, if y'all fans have some confirmation of that as well, all of our listeners, jump in and let us know, because maybe we're confused. But I guess I'll take this moment to remind y'all, please like, rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you see us on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars, because we're freaking awesome. All right, no more plugging for now. What else is going on with y'all, gentlemen?
Who's next? Who's
got?
Well, I'm gonna. This will be a good transition into the next quick thing we're gonna talk about. Previously, you and I, Jose, were talking about Mark Sanchez, right, and football. So and the butt fumble and stuff like that, and that's kind of relevant because we've had a butt punt last week, right?
Oh my, yeah, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So as we're recording the podcast, over in London, the Saints are playing the Vikings right now. And, we were talking about this before, and apparently Mark Sanchez is doing commentary for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, and how random is this? There's an actual dude in the crowd wearing a Mark Sanchez jersey.
Really? Interesting.
That is completely wild to me. In London,
he has a fan.
Who in the world in London wears a Mark Sanchez jersey? That's all I gotta say.
The one person.
The Jets kind of like regularly, like the London game, wasn't it? Kind of like always the Jets.
No, I don't think so. I think the Patriots.
Yeah,
the Patriots were there a lot, and there's a lot of Patriots fan across the pond. In London.
Really, that's interesting. Sort of, considering
just a random New Yorker, maybe, right, in the crowd that
but why is Sanchez? I mean, listen, there are so many other players you could pick from.
Maybe they knew
and listen,
going to be there. Yeah, I got it. Who knows, right?
Maybe that's what it is, but it's just wild to me, Anyway,
yeah.
Good transition, because both you and I, Jose, picked up NFL Pro. I think it's called NFL Pro Era.
NFL Pro Era, right? VR or something like that.
Yeah, and we got it on the Oculus Quest 2. And
wait, is it the Oculus or the Meta? What is it now?
Okay.
Damn,
if we're gonna go that one, you know what I'm saying? I still like Oculus better.
I just call it Quest 2. I just avoid the branding altogether because it's too confusing.
But the Oculus actually kind of makes sense because it's, but whatever.
And it still has the Oculus branding on it too, right?
Like, exactly. So I'm still going to call it an Oculus. Well, but yes, the Meta Quest 2, and it's funny because, and it's also on PSVR, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you and I've tried it. I happen to like it.
I do as well.
I
Mhm.
the only thing, and I don't know if you had this experience, but when I played 2 actual season games on it.
Yeah, I've played
You know,
3 so far, so I've played about a similar amount.
okay. And again, I don't know if it's because of the fact that I set the play zone too small because our house is a bit of a mess right now.
Mhm.
But I had the issue where I constantly threw the ball into the ground.
Oh, really? It happens to
So
me sometimes. It does.
like I said, I don't know if it's the fact that I set the play area too small, and then when I was throwing, since I have pretty decently long
It
arms,
goes
it was
outside.
The
going
arm is getting
outside
out
the
of
area.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that has something to do with it.
I
But that's the one thing that that was really annoying me. Is like I had a guy wide open, and then I would throw it, getting into the whole stance and doing, the Dak Prescott,
Yeah, me too. I try to get into it,
shimmy,
dude.
shimmy. You know what I'm
I
saying?
like get low and wait for the.
Yeah, so do I. I do all of this stuff, right?
I put my fingers in the lineman's butt when I'm trying to get that handoff, like all that,
Yep,
right? 2 thumbs in his butt, and then I wait for the handoff. Yeah,
exactly. But I don't know if it's because of that, but that's the only thing that I found super annoying. I kept throwing that ball a la, Zach Wilson in his first year right into the ground,
right into the dirt.
So
Yeah, I think the game is fun, but like I think it's better to describe it as an NFL simulator than a football game, right?
that is very true.
Because or like a quarterback simulator. That's the other one that gets thrown around because you can't play
Yeah.
defense in this game. You don't play as the running back. You just throw and hand off the ball, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's a decision that was made kind of wisely because, um I can see how difficult it could be to play as a running back in a very limited space. I can see how difficult it is to play defense, in a limited space. So I think they took the best part of the football game that translated over to VR and put it in there.
I hope I feel like they could have done running. I think defense would have been hard because
Well, you can run as the
yeah,
quarterback.
like that's what I'm saying. You could have done maybe the running back. The defense is hard because like getting in front of a pass and doing all this other stuff, like trying to tackle the right player, whatever. I can see that being confusing. Running, I think they could have done, and I haven't experimented enough with like running
I
the
don't
quarterback.
like it. I don't
right?
like running the quarterback.
I
To be
haven't
honest,
done it very much, so I don't know. I know the
Yeah.
mini games have different things that show you how to run a little bit better as the quarterback, but like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's we talked about this a little bit offline before the podcast. It's limited a little bit by the tech, and that's just a fact of
Right.
life here.
Mhm.
Because what I notice also is like how you grip the ball with the trigger is a little. It's intuitive, but it still feels weird to release it at the right point for me sometimes, and I think that's why I sometimes throw it into the dirt. I get excited, and I like release it too late, and it just spikes. But the other thing
Mhm.
I notice is that like maybe it's just me. Like your arm angle has to change a lot to do certain throws. Like if I want to zip it in there, I gotta throw kind of sidearm. If I want to throw a deep pass, then I gotta throw like your standard overhand like pass. Your overhand like whatever pass delivery. So that's a little weird because like sidearm is like a very niche thing to use as a quarterback. You're generally trying to get that ball up there so that nobody can knock it down. So, like,
Exactly. Yeah. Especially in the age of 6'7" offensive linemen,
yeah,
you got to get it over. Either that, or you got to be really good at shooting
I
right in between
mean,
those guys.
yeah. Sometimes
that's the separator between amazing quarterbacks, right? The ones that can, pass through defenders.
I
The
mean,
Mahomes,
The
and like
Mahomes, the Brady's,
that's
the
the other thing too, though,
Allens.
right? Like it
the
is a
Allens. Yeah,
little,
they're out there, so the
yeah.
whole
No,
idea is to play
yeah,
like them, right?
absolutely. And I mean, Lamar is the cover athlete for the game. So
Right. He's like one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Lamar is, but like it does definitely make you feel pretty awesome sometimes. But like also, so like sometimes you'll get that perfect, guy in between coverage or in between zones or like a couple of feet of separation from his defender. Right. You feel so freaking cool. You feel like Tom Brady, right? Like Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. You feel like a quarterback. And then sometimes when I mess up, I throw the ball like damn near straight into the air. It's up there. It's up there for like 8 seconds, and my guy is covered by like 3 people, and he still catches it. So it's like its learning curve is both steep and easy at the same time. It's weird because like you can end up throwing. That's probably why, like, because the tech is not right completely there, you might throw a weird pass. It gives you a little leeway where it's like,
I'm curious to see if updates fix that.
Yeah.
I mean,
my accuracy.
It's really interesting.
Just real quick, my accuracy as a quarterback in the game so far is like 89%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not even Hall of Fame. That's like all
you're a robot
forever.
You're a Terminator,
you know what I'm saying?
At that point.
I mean,
because usually 60 to 70 is usually the spot where you're Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and the opposing quarterbacks are even higher. Like I think Burrow was like 25 for 26 in a game that I played. Yeah. I won. It was just like, what the hell? Anyways, Wolfie,
I mean, it's really interesting to hear all this, right? Because if you think about like playing, a football game on a traditional console, it's a throw is just a push of a button.
Yeah.
As far as I know, because I haven't played in a very long time. I'm not like a sports video game, guy really, but last I remember is like
they did change it in Madden 23.
What is it? It's how hard you press the button
is
and
it
how long.
No, you're using the joysticks to kind of like I mean that's yeah, exactly. So you have to actually use the joystick to kind of there's 2 different modes. There's the classic mode where you just press the button, but now with this new one, and it's only on the new generation, the Series X and the PlayStation 5, you can use the joystick to kind of like guide it to a point where your receiver is going to grab it. So you're not throwing to the receiver, you're throwing to an area, which is very much like what a quarterback does.
That's
you
cool.
know what I'm saying?
I like that. That's cool.
Right. So if you think about it, like it's still kind of like in the game, it's still like a video game where like, all right, like you're pressing a button to like send it somewhere, or you're still like with the joystick, it's a little bit more realistic, but it's still like that versus like, in this virtual realm, you have to change your arm angles and there's like, like it's a little bit more realistic, but I think it's also like we're forgetting that it's still a video game.
Yeah.
And they're going to catch if they're going to catch, right? Because like in the video game, I don't know how much it accounts for human error, right? Like in a real game, you can have the perfect throw. The receiver still has, can have human error, but you don't have human error really that much in the video game.
They catch
it. If the receivers, they do.
In the game. Sometimes they'll like the bugs show their ugly head and like you'll throw to a receiver and he'll just watch it fly over his head and like do nothing. And the game like also kind of accounts for a receiver turning and looking at you, but also sometimes doesn't. So sometimes you have to wait.
Yeah.
And like the receiver will catch it and then like you get a really good catch. And sometimes like if you don't wait long enough, he'll get confused. Sometimes if you like, it's really kind of, I don't know about you, Walt, like that seems unclear to me. Like, I feel like sometimes it matters if you wait for the receiver to turn and look, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not really sure.
What, in the game or in the game? Actual?
Well, in real life, yeah. Like generally, it's timing, and then sometimes you do wait for your receiver to at least turn around to get a sense before you throw, right? But in the game, I feel like sometimes it does account for your receiver turning around and being able to be aware that much more quickly of where the ball is in the air. And I feel like sometimes it doesn't. Like that example that I gave you, a lot of times when the receiver just watches the ball fly by their head, I feel like it's because I didn't wait for them to at least turn and look. But sometimes they'll do that and they like do these miracle catches anyway, and it doesn't even freaking matter,
If we're talking real life, usually
no, in the video game.
Yeah, I know, but I'm getting to that. If you're looking about real life, the only time that a quarterback will ever wait until the guy turns his head is if you were talking about a busted play, so a play that's running off schedule, right? Usually most of the time, like you said, it's usually a timing pattern. It's usually, where your route is and where the ball needs to be at a certain point so that the guy can catch it.
Okay.
So now translating that to NFL Pro, and I wonder if this is something that has to do with the origin of this, because I believe, and I could be wrong, that the game is built off of tech that actual NFL players use.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I wonder if it's kind of following the same mechanics, where it's like if the guy is still running his route tree, then you know what, it doesn't matter whether you're throwing it and he's not looking back, or as opposed to if you're holding on to the ball too long and he's got to kind of improvise, you know. And again, this may be asking too much of the game, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the AI works and stuff, but I wonder if that has maybe playing into part of it, whether they coded that aspect of quarterback receiver relationship. You know what I mean?
I'd love to see the logic behind how they programmed that, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
it'll get better
So-
and better
so it's-
as the tech gets.
Yeah,
better.
so that's what I'm saying. This is a really funny conversation, because it's again, it's like we're getting so close to, like, the gripes are all about like
Yeah.
needs to be way more realistic, but then we're forgetting that it's still a video game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know
mean-
this is not how it would happen in real life, but
But
yeah.
you know what it is
Yeah.
though. I think
Which is, I think, a good thing. It's
No,
it's a good thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the reason why we're having these conversations is that the experience of being in the stadium is so immersive, and it really does make you feel like you're there until you kind of look to the sideline and see like there's only like 2 or 3 people populating the sideline. So
Yeah.
you know, it's a little weird. And then after the play, you know, you got a lineman that literally clips and walks right through you. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that kind of like take you out of the experience. But if you take those things out, it really, really does feel like you're on the field and
Yeah.
watching the game and
And
being
it's-
part of it. So I think that's kind of why we're in this, like, well, you know, why isn't it more realistic? Because you almost feel like you're 100% there.
It's
You
like
know what I mean?
it's like an uncanny valley almost, because it's so good and it works so well, like maybe 80 to 85% of the
Yeah.
time, and then that other 10 to 15%, you're like, what the hell just happened there?
Exactly.
That's kind
You
of
know,
what it is,
and-
you know.
It's only on the Oculus 2, right?
And
No, you can get it on the
PSVR.
PSVR, and I think
Right,
it's
but
on
not on the
Steam,
one,
right?
but not on the one, because I
Yeah,
have like
you
the
can-
first Oculus.
Oh no, it's PCVR and Meta Quest 2. It's not PSVR yet. Although when PSVR
it's
2
coming,
comes
though.
out,
but it's
probably will come
but
out for
definitely
that.
not on the first Quest, right?
No.
No, well, yes, I think, but
I
like,
don't think
remember, the
so.
first Quest like can play certain games, but it's just crappy in comparison to the second one. Like, I feel like they're all compatible, but like you're just not going to get the same
I
experience.
can't afford another console.
Especially since the Quest 2 went up in price. Did you see that? Like, it was $300 for the basic edition. Now it's $400.
It's out on PlayStation 4, by the way.
It is.
It's already out. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Interesting. PSVR 1?
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
it's for the old, because remember the PSVR 2 doesn't come out for maybe another year or so.
I figured they would
you know.
wait, but I guess the tech
So-
is good enough for it to work.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say in regards to how this all works is that, like, this is one of those things that it's a limitation of the game. We would love for it to just be like, oh, I'm going to throw, and wherever I throw is where the ball is going to go. And that's kind of how it works. But it's also dependent on what receiver you're looking at. Like, when you look at a receiver,
Yeah.
you see a highlight pop up, like a shaft of light to let you know that's who you're looking at. And then your throw is going to go in that general direction to kind of give you that assistance. But like, yeah, you can still flank it and mess it up. But like, that is kind of a limitation that we have to realize is just a limitation of the tech. You know, that's just is what it is. Like, it's really hard to track your arm perfectly, know where the release is, and then translate that into an in-game throw. It's just really hard.
I have a thought.
What's that?
Walt, why don't you bring your Quest to the dojo and we map out the mat as the play area?
Oh god, that would be incredible.
Oh my god, that'll be
Running
ridiculous.
quarterback all day.
Yeah, actually
That'll be
could, right? Because you can't.
I think the
move
thing
in
is,
game.
there's two ways to do it. You can either use it with the joystick, or you can do this.
But you can also move
Or
a
you
little
can
bit.
actually run.
Like in most VR
Or you
games,
can actually run.
you can
imagine
do
imagine
limited
people
movement.
walking by the dojo and just seeing people with like the headset going like this,
crashing into the
You know?
the padded walls and all this, like freaking meta quest elements flying everywhere.
We're gonna do that.
It'll be like arena football.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Definitely. I got to bring it in one day.
We would just have to account for, like, you would have to have a few feet between the barrier and the walls. So like as soon as you realize the wall is coming up, you're like, oh, I gotta stop. And you don't crash into it.
And you got a TV on the in the dojo, right? Does it cast? Does it cast?
Yeah,
because
it's got a Roku.
Oh,
so if you can cast a Roku, then you can
just get an HDMI cable. I'll bring my laptop.
Yeah, but then we can't run then. The whole point is running over people.
Yeah, but just move them off to the side somewhere. I've like, if you could get a freaking gym and turn that into a VR play space, like think about like any game, like shooting games. It's like, I don't gotta like use the controller. I'm just literally gonna run and find a spot of cover.
Listen, Gabe's dojo is the equivalent of half a football field. Yeah. So it's probably
that's what I'm saying. It is 66 feet.
Like square feet? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, that's about 30 yards. About 30 yards.
That's still a lot.
Yeah.
That's a huge space.
Listen, it'll be like back in the days when you only had like 3 or 4 guys to play stickball and you played half the field, right?
I say I'll bring my Meta Quest 2. We'll play multiplayer in there and see what happens.
Oh my god.
That was the other thing, right? You can't play a full game.
Yeah, it's all mini games for multiplayer.
That's the thing that sucks, but whatever. Hopefully, like I said,
full game?
Yeah.
No, you can't play full game, but you can't play full game multiplayer.
Yeah, so like we can't play against each other, which is sad.
Yeah.
I figured that would be semi-easy to pull off, but the multiplayer is like a set of mini games instead of
like I said, hopefully this comes in a title update, and they'll fix that, because I'm pretty sure people have been clamoring for that. I mean, you look at competitive football, you look at Madden 23. Why can't this be a thing for esports, right?
I mean, I think it's a limitation of the software, and VR games is still in its infancy, I would say.
I think, a lot
especially at home VR.
Yeah, a lot of the newer headsets, like the Quest Pro, I think, are going to have much more accurate hand tracking. But like these games are not entirely going to work ever until you have full body tracking. I'm not saying that you need to run around the actual area, but like until it can see where your feet are, like where all of those elements of you are, like it's not going to be completely accurate.
I think the PSVR had some semblance because the PlayStation had the PlayStation camera, and I think it did work with the VR, but I can't tell you how well it did it, and I can't tell you if any of the games probably even supported it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Quest Pro is coming out, right? The Quest 3 has been announced, I think, right? All this stuff is coming out, so like
I'm actually curious about the PSVR 2.
Yeah,
I'm actually, because I feel like as great as the Quest has been for us, I feel like PlayStation has the money and the properties to really, I mean, you look at some of the games that they have already. Is the Horizon Quest? Horizon
Zero.
Yeah, Zero.
But do they have Facebook money?
Wow.
I don't know. Well, you know what? The thing about it though is that
long haul wise.
No, I know. But right now, if you look at the PSVR, the original one has more AAA titles than the Quest does.
They have the user base.
True,
but it's the user base. It's not the money. I think.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that really drives everything.
Because they have games like, what is it? There's this game called Returnal that apparently is super freaking awesome on PSVR.
Yeah,
you can't play games like that on the Quest 2 because even still, the PSVR has. I mean, it's 2 pieces of hardware instead of 1, right? So
exactly.
It's going to be able to pull off more.
it's using the PlayStation for processing power as well.
Mhm.
So where the Quest, everything is just on the Quest,
Yep.
Well, that's
So,
also kind of like a negative thing too, that you got to be connected to the PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one thing I never jumped onto the PSVR for, is because I don't like the fact that you have to be tethered.
I mean,
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it
it's
is.
essentially like internet and VR tech have to improve for it to truly become the experience where we're just basically living in VR worlds, like eventually. Because I feel like
Yep.
that's the future. We'll just live in the metaverse or something like that.
And
There you
that's what Zuck is counting on.
That's what he's trying. That's what he's
Yeah.
working on. Yeah.
So
All right.
All right. Speaking about metaverse, let's go to multiverse and let's do Deadpool 3. How do you like that one?
How you like me now?
so is that's what's gonna happen? Is that the theory, that this is gonna be like a multiverse
I think so.
jump and it's gonna be?
Well, you know what? It could be a couple of things, because if you remember the end of Deadpool 2, so we're talking about Deadpool 3, which was announced, and the bigger announcement is that Wolverine and Hugh Jackman is coming back, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so the thing
sure,
about
Ryan.
it is that it could be multiversal, right? But it also could be timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly type stuff. Because if you remember, at the end of
I don't know.
Deadpool 2, what's his name? Deadpool stole Cable's time travel thingy.
Mhm.
Oh, he did. That's right. Yeah.
And remember, we know that he is
Well-
he's at least in one of the X-Men universes, right? Because he like he has that one scene where you see.
Well, yeah, he goes to
Xavier
the
and,
mansion.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
and he
You
has
know?
a crush on Wolverine on both movies.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
so like Wolverine exists in his universe already. So I don't think it's a multiversal thing.
It's just the whole fact that Logan died. But that's why I say,
but that's way in the future, though.
yeah.
But-
Remember,
and then
Logan died
again-
in the future.
that's true, too.
Deadpool doesn't take place in the Logan timeline.
That's true too. But I have a feeling that time travel thing may be something to look at in this movie. But then I could be wrong. Also, you know what I'm saying?
Actually, no. So I do think that maybe maybe they do use it. I mean, there's no reason why not to, if they make a point of having that scene in the film where like he has Cable's time travel dial. But maybe this is how. I mean, obviously, this is how mutants are going to be introduced, because Namor is a mutant, and it's been
Right.
explicit that he's a mutant.
Miss Marvel.
But
too.
I don't think that. Yeah, but I don't think that like that's how Marvel is going to introduce mutants. I think that Deadpool with Wolverine is how they introduce the mutants and X-Men.
You think that
That's a
they'll
long
somehow
way, though.
merge?
Because
the
isn't this coming out in like 2025 or something like that?
2024. Yeah, it's
Is it 2024?
Yeah, it is 2024.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I don't think. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I don't think,
But
because
that's
they're
not
not.
that long.
But they're also not. They're also not going to introduce the X-Men next year. You know,
Mhm.
they're not gonna. So I think that this is how, obviously, the X-Men are being introduced. You know.
I think it's going to be a multiversal adventure. I think it's going to be how Deadpool ends up in the MCU. I think this movie is going to somehow, the timey-wimey stuff is going to go wrong. That's how he's going to end up like meeting this version of Logan, which may not be the one from his universe. It's hard to tell, right? We're not going to be able to know like until we see the movie. But I feel like it's going to be like it's clearly going to be like a buddy comedy, right? And I think like a buddy comedy like journey type film, again, where that can also explain, if you think about it, why Logan won't end up in the MCU, because they probably don't want to commit to that, right? They don't, because who knows what Hugh Jackman will want to do. He's not going to want to be Wolverine probably for the next 10 years. Maybe he will. But like, this is how you have this journey through the multiverse. Deadpool ends up in the MCU, Logan does not. And then you have like, I don't know, maybe Logan makes some sacrifice, stays in his universe, whatever the heck it would be. But like the way that they kind of described it thus far, I feel like, yeah, timey-wimey, multiversal, and like it's such a good jump off point from the second movie, right? Because he started going into these different timelines. He met Logan, he met his version of Deadpool himself from the freaking X-Men Origins Wolverine film and killed him. Like they might just continue with that, right? Because they like Deadpool 2 wasn't even the most well-received movie compared to the first one, but all that stuff in the end, like everybody loved that. Everybody loved him going and talking to Logan. Everybody loved him killing the previous Deadpool. Even the weird scene that was cut where he goes back in time to kill baby Hitler. Like everybody was like, awesome. Like we want more of that. So maybe they're going to jump off of that and turn the whole film into that. And it fits
with the Green Lantern
and it fits the Deadpool aesthetic too, right? Because like,
you know what would be wild though? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, it'd be wild though, because I look at, I think there's a problem with Hugh Jackman coming back, only because if he's not going to be Wolverine going forward, it's going to be weird having him as a character and then somebody else taking up the role that, you know, may or may not look like him or act like him or whatever. But, you know, given that this is Deadpool 3, and I know this is not going to happen, so please don't rip me for doing this, but wouldn't it be on brand for Deadpool that they bring Hugh Jackman back as Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine in the universe?
Did they say Wolverine specifically?
No, they didn't say Wolverine specifically. They just said Hugh
claw stuff.
Well, I know they did the claw thing, but like I said, it's that kind of solves the problem of who's going to play Wolverine going forward, right? And you still bring Hugh Jackman, and you got that interplay between Deadpool and Hugh Jackman, right?
Maybe
I know it's not going to happen, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe he's Hugh Jackman
would be weird
playing Wolverine, or maybe there's a Hugh Jackman where it's just Hugh Jackman, and then there's a Hugh Jackman in another universe that's Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
So there's like 3 Hugh Jackmans, kind of like in Spider-Man, right?
I was going to say that in order to explain it, they might have to bring the Spider-Man into the movie to be like, hey, sometimes in the multiverse, like people look different. So don't expect Logan to look like this the next time you see him, y'all.
He would have to hit that point, you know what I'm saying?
I kind of agree.
I do think if there's any character that can transfer to a different universe, I think it would be Deadpool. And I think that you're kind of right that this is going to be I think that the way that it's going to play is that, you know, this is the Wolverine in his universe. He meets him, whatever, this, that, and the other, but then he somehow ends up in another universe. And let's say he ends up in the MCU universe and he's like, what the hell is this? I got to go find my friend Wolverine. And then he's like, wait a minute, you're not the Wolverine I know. But they end up staying in that universe. And through that, he ends up introducing the X-Men to the universe. And that's how it gets tied up.
I mean, I think it's going to be multiversal one way or another. Or like multiversal or time travel.
Yeah, I do think that the Hugh Jackman and Wolverine as we know it is the Hugh Jackman and Wolverine of Deadpool's universe. Again, mainly because of, you know, the fact that he already has a visible crush on Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in his universe.
But also as also has a crush on Hugh Jackman, I think, right? Like it's all,
but as Wolverine, not as Hugh Jackman, though.
Is that? Yeah, you're probably right. I haven't seen Deadpool 2 in a while, so but
yeah. You know, and also it's funny because again, let's not forget that like this Deadpool 3 will actually be the 4th time that Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, because in the terribly ill-fated Wolverine Origins movie, which is where Deadpool was first made his debut, that's where they first had their on-screen, you know, that's the first time they shared the screen together. And so it's interesting that we're getting this because I would love to see how they, like, because they're gonna touch on it. They're going to address the fact that, like, you know, they had a terrible, you know, Wolverine versus Deadpool. But this is obviously going to be like the rematch.
Maybe like it's something weird, like he's still cleaning up the timeline and he ends up, I mean, if the MCU time travel works the way that it does, and we know that there's no actual real set way that it works, maybe he has to go kill all the versions of that Deadpool and not just the one at that point in time. And if you remember, one of the Wolverine movies like ended on the cliffhanger that Deadpool would come back. What if he does? And what if part of like the beginning of the movie?
Please do not bring that Deadpool.
What if the beginning of the movie
was terrible?
What if the beginning of the movie is him going to that timeline to help that Wolverine kill that Deadpool, and then that ends up screwing up the timeline or something somehow, which is how they end up on this multiversal adventure, and then he ends up in the MCU. Maybe. I mean, it could
Well,
be
but
anything.
then who's the Wolverine in his universe? Then, if it's also, I guess Hugh Jackman could be the same Wolverine in multiple universes.
Yeah, maybe that's how you get like
Because it would kind of make sense that, like, for example, like it cuts to like that final scene or like that fight scene between like terrible Deadpool, or rather, let's call it muted Deadpool versus
Wade,
Wolverine.
right?
So muted Deadpool versus Wolverine of Origins, and then Deadpool just like happens to land there, and he's like, "What's going on here?" And he kind of interrupts that battle, and Wolverine doesn't know which one of the two Deadpools to fight, so he fights both of them. And that's how they kind of like become friends or something.
I think it could be great. I think it could be funny.
The thing with Deadpool is that you can literally do anything.
Exactly.
It'll probably be
so
great.
true.
That's the thing about Deadpool.
Exactly. And like his self-aware commentary about all of it is just going to make it that much funnier. Like his transition between universes and all that. I mean, the big point is that we're excited about it. Although, Wolfie, you did mention that you would have kind of liked for it to be secret until the movie came out.
Yeah, I think it would have been. I think it would have been better for us to find out through a trailer, like featuring Wolverine. You know, but I do love like after when this first, it's kind of like it's just on brand Ryan Reynolds too. So, but I also really love that second like video of them like talking about like how they came up with the idea, but then like they're muted, so you can't hear anything that they're saying, and you're just seeing them like kind of like claw and stab each other and like, you know, cursing and everything.
It's all gibberish. Like somebody did the lip sync or the lip reading already, and it's all this them just being like, and then I went and stabbed them, and and then like it's all just a bunch of nonsense. Which I gather it had to be. You know, they're not going to spoil anything in that. Yeah, but I agree. Like,
that would be really funny if they actually did do it, and then they realize, wait a minute, there's lip readers out in the world.
Yeah. Like, damn, we just revealed the whole plot to this movie.
I know.
I mean, I agree. The first trailer probably would have been better, like for sure. But because of Ryan Reynolds' style and his humor, it still somehow,
like I said, it's on brand,
ends up being good and doesn't disappoint as much as it generally would, right? Like Deadpool's comedic, Deadpool's silly. Like leaning on the cameo in the next film is something that Ryan Reynolds would do, especially with their bro relationship that they have that they always make.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just going to be a cameo. That's the other thing too.
Right. That's
because
true.
If it was just going to be a cameo, then they would have left it very secret, and then it'll be in like kind of like an Easter egg or whatever. Yeah. But the fact that they're like they're coming out the bat with it, you know, tells me that this is going to be like a straight up, you know, a buddy cop.
They probably don't want leaks of the set, you know, and everybody's speculating, oh, Hugh Jackman's on set, you know, blah blah this and that. You know,
this like you said,
if it's a cameo, you can get away with it, but if he's part of the movie proper, then you know what, it'll be impossible to keep that under wraps.
Yeah, exactly. And he's going to be like the Cable of this film, right? Like Cable was the buddy, from Deadpool 2 for that buddy cop. He'll be the buddy cop in this one. I mean, it's all but assured, but yeah, it looks good. It looks good. The commercials were funny, or the announcements were funny, and
man, super stoked.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Have you seen Bullet Train, by the way? Just on the side.
I have
not.
Oh, because speaking of Ryan Reynolds, but okay,
man.
You know. Oh, so I guess he's on it. You can spoil it at this point.
I did not.
No, I still can't spoil it because you know it's very specific, but you know.
Okay. But he is in the film.
Huh?
Wait, what are we talking about here? Ryan Reynolds in Bullet Train?
Dude,
do I forget something?
Yeah, you kind of did. I'm not gonna speak on it. Watch the movie again.
Oh God,
Gabe, watch the movie.
I saw it in theaters. I thought it was kind of boring, to be honest with you, but maybe that's why I missed that. Now I have to go back and review whatever the hell I missed, I guess.
I actually kind of enjoyed it, especially the story wasn't great, but the interplay between the characters were awesome.
The interplay was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was an odd film. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I just that's it.
Cool, gentlemen. Well, I guess. That brings us to the end? That brings us to the end, I think, for today. Y'all, I really appreciate the conversation as always. This is Jose, I'm joined by Wolfie and Walt. I guess we'll do the quick plugs again real quick one more time. Like I said, y'all please like, rate, share, and subscribe on all your favorite social media platforms and all your favorite podcast platforms, especially Apple Podcasts. Please rate us as high as you possibly can, because we know you love all these episodes. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening, all right? And we know you love Get Geek Podcast. Thanks, y'all, very much. Thanks, gentlemen, for another awesome conversation. And there's nothing left to say except for stay geeky, my friends.
Peace.
Peace.